Welcome back to Tokyo Ghoul Anime Review episode number 8. This one reviewing the 8th episode of Tokyo Ghoul anime series. Take One Who Writhes. I think it's how you pronounce it. And the 173rd chapter of the manga, Pass. Let's talk about this newest episode. This episode adapts mostly from chapter 32-37, though it starts up with the ending of chapter 32. Well, they adapt from the ending of it, and mostly, but they only adapt like 5 full chapters in this episode, which isn't too bad per se. Yeah, but what happens in this episode? Well, there's a few different characters. Something like Shu pops up a few times, where he goes nuts, and one of his servants had to calm him down. Chihidori. Great to see this character. One of my favorite minor characters of the series. Pure fun of a character. And she shows up roughly a few times. The first time you see her is that she gives the guy who gets a lot of focus in this episode. I don't remember the guy's name in the episode, but he's a servant of, I think it was Matsu, I think his name is, of Shu, the gourmet ghoul. She gives him pictures. Now, these pictures do play into what goes on in the next episode. What are these pictures of? Kaneki as Sasi, the current alias of Ken Kaneki, which I think is great. The fact he did that. The character of Psycho appears roughly for about 3 scenes this whole episode. Yeah, first time she's at a meeting and she's asleep. Also, I gotta point this out, but this is probably the first episode of the entire series not to feature the home which the Quincy Squad live in. Yeah, this is the first one not to show, which is a bit bizarre. Also, Himari shows up in the episode for like 2 scenes. You see her briefly in a cell because she was captured she was arrested last episode, and you see her in a flashback with Toka's brother talking to him, and she says to him, like, you being mad reminds me of Toka. Now, despite the fact that in the previous series, Toka and her brother has a very strained relationship, my personal guess is the reason why that he didn't want to hit her because he talked about his sister. Probably because she has a lot of respect for her sister. She deeply cares about his sister Toka very much. Thinks of her as a big sister. Yeah. Also, Himari calls Haas Kaneki, which he doesn't say like, no, I'm not that person. It's just that he mentions in the last episode the body is Kaneki, but the mind is not. Yeah. Also, Yuri shows up in this episode for roughly 1 scene. You only see him for roughly about 3 minutes. It's a brief little scene of Kaneki going back to the shop where he got his masking from the previous series, and it's great to see the shop again. This is probably the second time I've seen in the actual anime, but this particular shop has only shown up in the manga not like maybe once. In the original series once. In this series, I think just 1 or 2 times, and it's even shown up in the live action film that this guy's shop shown up in. And mostly whenever they show Tokyo Ghoul outside of his manga, they always show the shop at least once. And my personal guess is the reason why, not only because, well, the manga did it, because it makes sense, even though, yes, Kaneki is not there to be fitted for a mask, even though he does bring his mask to... Also, the shop does show up in the second Tokyo Ghoul light novel. So, it makes perfect sense for this to happen. Also, the CGC is seen for a good portion of the episode. I would say about a good 30% of the episode is shown at the CGC. And they're after a new ghoul called Rose. Not much is known about this person. People outside of fact are trained by somebody. It's hinted it might be Aljurichi. The Aljurichi does show up in the episode for like 1 scene. Yeah, and Toka's brother. I don't remember the guy's name. I know he's Toka's brother because he got blue hair, and he mentioned that. He views this one person who is not the leader of the jury tree. The leader of jury tree is is the horror writer. Yeah, she's the leader of the jury tree. And he says to him, "Do you see all the members of a jury tree as your personal pawns?" Yeah, and also the creepy guy who's a former teacher from the auction arc. Yeah, he shows up here for a cameo. That's really it. But this was a good setup for the next arc, dealing with the whole thing with Rose. Overall, for this series, in roughly 8 episodes, we've only gone through at least, I'd say, 3 arcs, I'd say. Well, the Nutcracker arc was actually part of the auction arc anyway, so I would say we're on the 3rd arc already for the series, and in 8 episodes, it's surprising though that the anime has already gone through almost 40 chapters in just 8 episodes. For a normal anime, if let's say you're taking their time with it and doing 2 chapters episode, they probably won't get this far into episode 20, but this is episode 8. Yeah, and the way it looks for next episode called Ghost, there might be a possibility that the clowns might show up in the next episode. It's a possibility, but who knows when it comes to the clowns, because if I remember from the tease from last week, they were teased to be in this episode, but that didn't happen. Yeah, the clowns did not make appearance in this episode. That's one thing quite weird though, the clown that they didn't show up in this episode. They were teased for this episode last week, and yet they're not here. It is so bizarre, to say the least. But pretty good episode, good setup. And if you think of if there's any action after what happened in the last few episodes, there is one scene of action this entire episode. It's Squad 1 taking out some ghouls in a scene that lasts about 5 minutes. Yeah, this was really quick. I mean, wow, this is by far for a fight in this series, even for overall franchise, this is by far the quickest battle the whole series, because even in Route A, battles were a lot longer than this. Yeah, I think this is probably an embarrassment when it comes to the action for the series so far. But if you think about the pacing is pretty decent, but mostly this is about Shu. Shu and his, I would say his friend, who's also like his servant, who even at one point he was even cleaning his room while he was sleeping. Good job to make sure he's asleep. What did he do? I mean, it's a hardwood floor, so not vacuuming. I personally think he swept the floor and he waxed it. Yeah, that's probably what he did. But they even show a flashback of how he first met Shu, which is a pretty interesting scene where apparently he just was brought on by the family and show him his rose garden, which is very beautiful. He even gave him a rose as well and treated him like a good friend. And him meeting Chidori, that makes perfect sense, because it seems like several characters get a chance to meet Chidori. Now, Chidori, in case you're wondering, has she met Kaneki? Yes, in a light novel. I don't think she's met him in the main series. I don't think so, no. But if you wonder her first appearance was in a light novel. And then, of course, she appeared in the anime. Now, she never appeared in the main Tokyo Ghoul series. She never appeared at all. And it's great Tokyo Ghoul Re is actually bringing her in, which is great. Because when I first saw her in the OVA days, I found her to be a really interesting character, and I love the fact that in all her appearances that she's appeared and I've seen her so far, she's wearing the same exact outfit, which is great. The fact that they haven't changed her, they did make a slight change of attire by giving her kind of like a sweater to tie around her neck like a cape. But yeah, great episode nonetheless. Can't wait next episode, but I'm surprised though that the Kaneki's made superior. I'm surprised she was absent. Yeah, Akira, yeah, she was surprisingly absent for this episode, which is weird. The fact that she was. Now on to the newest chapter. Pass. Yeah, this whole chapter is basically about a humongous fight. Yeah. It's about the Fedora branch. There's a brief discussion about that. It looked like a shrine. Yeah, shrine. And then we have pretty much a fight. For in the last chapter, having these two characters basically beat the crap out of each other. I think one is supposed to be Kaneki. Yeah, I think one's supposed to be Kaneki. The other I think is supposed to be Oh yeah, the guy who was, I think his name is Uda. I think his name is, yeah, Uda, which he was a rival, he was a student of his, and they fight for pretty much the entire chapter, arguing back and forth, slash each other up, and that's really it. If you think I kind of messed up reviewing the chapter, no, because the chapter itself is not very much happening. It's just basically a major fight scene. Yeah, but hopefully next week's chapter actually is Kaneki in it, because this chapter, well, does kind of have Kaneki in it, but apparently I think Kaneki went back to his SAS outfit for some reason. Either that or just a completely different character. I know one is Uda. I know that's him, the one with the black hair. As for the other guy, it could be Kaneki because he's the only character in the whole series who has white hair. Yeah, I think it is because it can't be Armon because, well, it's too young for that. So yeah, yeah. So about more stuff. Hopefully we get past this fight because this fight's been going on for now for 2 straight chapters. Yeah, so a pretty good chapter. Great artwork for it because the artwork, the writer for the series does a fantastic job with the artwork. But mostly put, not much story advancement this episode. Just a big action scene. It's a good action scene, but it didn't feel like it advanced the plot of this particular arc very much. No, it didn't. Yeah, excuse me. But not much else to say. But pretty good chapter. I'm gonna give this a. I want to be nice to it. I'm gonna give it an 8.75 out of 10. It's a bit of a step down for last chapter because last chapter felt like it was pretty much was a little interesting. This one, which is okay. Yep. Hopefully 174 will be better, but in a couple weeks, 175. Okay. But my next video I'm gonna do right after this one is a comic corner. All right. But until I see you all in that comic corner, bye.